it's obviously better to deal with controversy and get the message of Torah across than to just talk only Torah. So I'll try to do a little bit of both. Yesterday, we read the portion of the Torah which talks about judges, shoftim. And we were obligated to put judges in every city in order to establish justice throughout the land. Now this is by custom. Is it coincidental that the Torah reading about judges was last week? Or is it not coincidental? Is it by divine providence? So we Hasidim believe that everything is by divine providence, for we believe in what is called continuous creation. At every moment, God has the option of making me or you, or the light, or the sun, or the galaxies. Every moment, God has the option of not making us. Therefore, there is a continuous process of creation. Since God is making us at this moment, this must mean by divine choice, for a purpose, because God does things for a purpose. Just like a housewife doesn't put her dishes just willy-nilly, she has an order. God has an order as well, much more so. So there's a purpose to our being created at this moment. If existence, which appears to be random, is by divine choice and providence, then everything that happens to do with the Torah is also by divine choice and providence. And the fact that the Jewish people read Parshas Shoftim, which deals with the judges and judgment, is very central to what goes on in the world. And it is by divine choice. The Torah tells us that the foundation of government, the foundation of holy institutions, the foundation of the relationship between man and God is justice. When there are fair courts of law and there are clear principles of law that govern, then this becomes the basis of a society that is successful in its administration, successful in its pursuit of higher purpose, successful in ultimately coming closer to God, and in fact becomes successful in its battles against enemies. One of the things that struck me last week was, during the week that we read about judges, a judge struck down Proposition 8 that was passed by a vast majority of Californians, saying it's unconstitutional. Now the judge had to judge him based on the Constitution. The judge had to come up with a reason why there should be no difference between relationship between a man and a woman, a man and a man. This has nothing to do with persecution by law. This has to do with religious or moral preference. And essentially the judge was going out of the place of justice, which justice deals with not hurting an individual, making sure that individuals shouldn't damage each other, and that individuals should be able to pursue their lives without any kind of restriction, and instead went ahead and judged on morality, because the acceptance of a male and male or a female and female relationship is a question of morality, a standard of morality that is a personal choice. And the judge went outside the pale of jurisprudence to establish a moral choice for Californians. And so the judge violated the principles of justice. Now, what are the results when judges violate the principles of justice? When judges begin to legislate values or legislate laws that have nothing to do with their decision-making. What happens is as follows. When the justice system is messed up, then everything else is messed up. And where do you see it? You see it in battle. The success in battle is dependent upon the clarity of the principles of the people. When people's principles are muddled, and they're muddled by a faulty judicial system, then they cannot win a battle. I'll explain. The judge is a liberal. Liberals are notorious for not having clear thinking. Why do I say they're not clear thinking? Because liberals, when they hear that someone murdered several people, then it must have been motivated by something else other than his hatred and his evil. There had to be a cause, and they try to find the cause and try to sympathize. All of the major newspapers, all of the major media outlets try to find an excuse for the man who murdered 8 people because he stole beer. They said it was racially based. Baloney! The man is a killer. The man deserves to die. Got nothing to do with race. The liberals have a disease. The disease is they try to find an excuse for killers. They try to find an excuse why people are upset. People can be upset for all kinds of reasons. But when they violate the standards, of behavior, when they violate the standards of morality and the codes of justice, then people got to be prosecuted. It's plain and simple. You want to bring the motive to reduce the sentence, to take the sentence from a death sentence to life without parole? That's possible. That can mitigate it. But you can never try to excuse a murder. You shouldn't try to find an excuse for the people who blow themselves up in order to kill other people who are innocent. You should not find an excuse for Nazis or for Arabs who blow other people up. There's no excuse for that. And it's not because of Israeli persecution. There was 1,300 years of Muslim persecution of the Jews in their countries. You never had this kind of behavior. This comes from an ideological excuse because ideologically the Muslims believe that they have a right to kill others who are not Muslims. That's the fact. But liberals can't see this because liberals have a blurry sense of values. Because when you try to find an excuse for a killer, you blame the victim. And so when you have a faulty judicial system where the judge thinks that he's got to become the moral conscience of a people instead of judging right or wrong, instead of judging destruction of property or rights, then you have a blurred vision for the soldiers and for the populace behind the soldiers. And that's the reason why this country is losing wars. They're losing the wars not because they're not strong enough, but because they have no will to win. When you're in a war, you can't worry about casualties. And you can't worry about what people say. You must win because you're against an enemy. But you're hurting people. Yes, that's before you go to war. Once you go to war and you put your soldiers in danger, you must protect your soldiers and win the war. And by winning the war, there will be less casualties. We just went through victory in Japan Day. It happened because of a terrible, terrible, tragic event, which was bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Was this justified? We will never know. But certainly the purpose was to win. And to win with the least amount of casualties, the least amount of American soldiers dying. That was the decision. The Japanese don't have to like us. They could hate us for it. But it was the right decision at the right time because the purpose was to win the war. To win it without putting your men in jeopardy. Today,